I always believed that loyalty meant legacy, that if you gave enough, cared enough, sacrificed enough, your place in the family would never be questioned. So, when Mom passed, I flew home not just grieving, but quietly trusting that the years I spent wiring money to save their house over 70 had meant something. I sat beside my sister Lily and my father, still numb with loss, as the lawyer unfolded the crisp ivory pages of Mom's will. I wasn't worried. I should have been. My name was never mentioned. Not once. Mom had left everything the house, her savings, her shares to Lily. And all I got was a sentence in her handwriting. Madeline is strong. Lily still needs guidance. That was the moment something shifted in me. Not anger, not heartbreak. Just clarity. The lawyer kept reading, but I barely heard a word. My ears buzzed, like the air had been vacuumed out of the room. Lily shifted beside me, her mouth slightly open in disbelief, though not the kind born of injustice, more like the kind of disbelief you feel when you win something you didn't expect. Dad sat with his hands folded tightly in his lap, eyes fixed on the table. He didn't speak. He didn't even flinch. When the reading ended, the lawyer asked if there were any questions. I said nothing. My voice, so often the one that soothed and solved, simply disappeared. I walked out of that office into the cold Boulder air, the kind that stung your lungs and made your eyes water whether you were crying or not. I wasn't sure which was which. Back at the house I had spent years helping to save, no one said a word to me. Lily headed to her room, phone already in hand. Dad asked if I wanted tea. I shook my head. I stared at the living room wall for over an hour, trying to feel something sharp enough to cut through the numbness. Anger, betrayal, devastation. But they didn't come. Only a slow, hollow awareness. This wasn't an oversight. It was a choice. Mom had written that line herself. Madeline is strong. Lily still needs guidance. I had been rewritten into a concept, a strength, a utility, not a daughter. They didn't see me as someone who deserved a legacy, just someone who could build one for others. I went upstairs, packed my small suitcase, and texted my best friend, "Can I crash with you tonight?" Her reply came instantly, "Of course. Are you okay?" I didn't answer that part. As I closed the door behind me, I heard Dad call from the kitchen, "Heading out?" I paused. "Yeah. You'll come back tomorrow?" I turned slightly, just enough for my voice to carry. "We'll see." He didn't push further. He never did. Driving away, I glanced in the rearview mirror at the home I once poured my paychecks into. I had imagined one day inheriting it, not out of greed, but because it was mine too. I had saved it. I had kept the lights on when foreclosure notices piled up. I had cried in that upstairs bathroom after working 14-hour days to make their mortgage. And now? I wasn't even a footnote. But I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I just drove. That was the day I stopped asking to be chosen. 3 weeks passed. No one reached out, not to apologize, not to explain. And honestly, I didn't expect them to. I had slipped into a quiet routine back in Denver. Early mornings, long walks, black coffee, and the soft hum of distance. I let the silence sit. Let them live with it. Then, one night, while I was brushing my teeth, my phone buzzed. "Dad. Hi, Maddie. Hope you're doing okay. Just wanted to check, do you still have the contact for that tax consultant you used for the house stuff last year?" No mention of the will. No acknowledgement of what had happened. Just a question, as if I was still the family's unofficial manager. I stared at the screen, toothbrush paused midair. Not angry, not surprised, just tired. I didn't answer. 2 days later, a second message arrived. "Dad, also the house insurance payment's late. Do you know how Mom used to handle that?" Another prompt. Another soft nudge, hoping I'd slide back into the role without being asked directly. I typed, "No idea. Try asking Lily. She's the sole heir." And hit send. A minute later, the typing bubble appeared. "Dad. She doesn't really know where to start. You were always good at this stuff." I stared at that sentence longer than I should have. You were always good at this stuff. Yes, I was. And that's exactly why they'd leaned on me, not because they valued me, but because I made their lives easier, smooth, uncomplicated. But they didn't choose me. Not when it mattered. That night, I opened my budgeting spreadsheet, the same one I used for years to manage their mortgage, their water bills, their property tax. I stared at the tabs, every payment date still highlighted in green, and then I did something that felt almost sacred. I deleted the file. Every row, every formula, every saved auto payment schedule. Gone. Not out of spite. Out of self-respect. By the end of the week, another message came. This time, from Lily. Lily. Hey. Do you know when the garbage pickup is scheduled? It's piling up. I think we missed a bill or something. I didn't reply. She followed up 10 minutes later. Lily. Also, how did Mom usually pay the HOA fees? My fingers hovered over the keyboard, but I didn't type. It was starting. The unraveling. They had inherited a house, not a manual. And I had finally stopped being the manual. By the second month, the messages turned less casual and more desperate. Dad, Madeline, the utility company just called, said we're overdue. I thought it was on autopay? I almost laughed. It was on autopay, my autopay for 3 straight years. I had linked it to my own account when Mom forgot to pay twice in a row one winter, but I had canceled all of it. Quietly. Deliberately. And they hadn't even noticed until things started slipping. I replied. It was under my name. Not anymore. Silence. Then. Dad. I see. I didn't realize. Exactly. I spent that weekend doing something I hadn't done in years, tending to myself. I reorganized my apartment, took a long hike, bought a set of watercolor pencils I'd been eyeing since college but never allowed myself to splurge on because there was always a more urgent bill to handle theirs. On Sunday, while sipping tea, I got a text from Lily. Lily. So, is there like a folder with all the passwords or something? No greeting, no apology. Just a digital tug, trying to open a door that was now locked. I could picture her overwhelmed, in over her head, maybe finally understanding that ownership wasn't the same as knowing how to manage. I didn't answer. Monday came, and with it, a phone call. Not a text, a call. Dad. I let it ring. Then, another one this time, from the bank. They left a voicemail saying they needed updated documentation for the mortgage, which was now flagged as unverified. I deleted the message. That night, while the city lights glowed beyond my apartment window, I sat with my journal and wrote a single sentence. Letting go is not the same as abandoning. And beneath it, I was never supposed to carry the weight of 3 adults. But I did, and now I choose not to. It didn't feel like revenge. It felt like relief. On Thursday, I bumped into my former coworker at the art center. She asked casually, "Hey, how's your family doing? Still in Boulder?" I paused, then smiled. They're figuring it out. Because they were. And for the first time, I wasn't the one doing the figuring. By week 9, the silence broke not with an apology, but with panic. It started with a voicemail from Lily. Her voice was tight, almost frantic. "Hey, Madeline. I think something's wrong with the water. It's not coming out right, and there's this smell. I don't know who to call. Did Mom have a plumber on file?" "No." "Hi." "No. How are you?" Just straight to the ask. I didn't reply. Later that day, she texted again. "Lily. Also, do you remember if the furnace ever got replaced? I think it's broken. The house is freezing." I read it while stirring a pot of soup in my own warm, quiet kitchen. For years, that house had been a bottomless pit, leaky pipes, old wiring, a roof that barely survived last year's snow. I had coordinated it all, paid for most of it, fixed what no one else noticed. But now? Now they noticed. 2 days later, another message. This one from Dad. "Dad, the property tax bill came in. Lily's overwhelmed. I know it's not your responsibility, but maybe you could walk her through it? I stared at those words. I know it's not your responsibility. Finally, he said it. But it still came with a caveat, a nudge. A hope that I'd step in. Just this once. Just for now. But there was no just. There had never been just. There was always more. Always another leak. Another emergency. Another form. Another season of carrying people who didn't want to learn to walk. I didn't reply to Dad either. Instead, I spent that evening doing something that once felt impossible. I applied for an out-of-state photography retreat. A week in Oregon. Hiking, shooting landscapes, meeting people I didn't have to take care of. I booked it that night. And then I took a long bath. No calls, no crises, no obligations. That weekend, I ran into a former neighbor at a downtown bookstore. Mrs. Everly, she used to live 2 houses down from Mom and Dad. She looked surprised to see me. Oh dear, you're not around much these days. Your father's been looking a bit lost. Lily's doing groceries and things, but I think it's getting hard on them. She's not really the organized type. I nodded politely. I'm sure they'll figure it out. She touched my arm gently. You always kept that house going, didn't you? I smiled. Not anymore. A week after my conversation with Mrs. Everly, I received a notification from a real estate site I still had bookmarked from when I helped Mom refinance. New listing in Boulder, 3-bed, 2-bath, high foreclosure risk. Address, 1204 Sycamore Lane. My childhood home. They were trying to sell it. The house I'd saved twice, the mortgage I'd patched together with overtime shifts and drained savings. Now it was listed falling apart, full of backlogged issues, and no one willing to take responsibility. 2 days later, my phone rang. I almost didn't pick up. But something in me, maybe closure, maybe curiosity, made me answer. It was Dad. His voice cracked slightly, the weariness palpable. Madeline, I know we haven't handled things well, but the bank's calling every other day. Lily's overwhelmed. The insurance lapsed. The taxes are a mess. We could use your guidance. There it was again. Guidance. Never help. Never, I'm sorry. Just the assumption that I'd know what to do and do it. I kept my tone even. Didn't Mom leave Lily everything? A pause. Then, she did. But she's not equipped for this. I let that sink in. And you thought I was? He sighed. You always were. Exactly. That's what they counted on. That's why my name wasn't in the will. Because I was dependable, not lovable. A worker, not a daughter. That night, Lily texted me too. Lily. Hey. The power got shut off for like 5 hours today. I didn't realize there was a final notice. I feel like I'm drowning. Can we talk? I didn't respond right away. I reread her message 3 times. It wasn't mean. It wasn't manipulative. It was small, real. She was sinking, but so had I for years. The difference was, I had learned to swim by myself. She had always been handed the life vest. I typed 1 sentence. Talk to Dad. He still lives there. This isn't on me. She responded quickly. Lily. But you know this stuff. You've always handled it. And that was the problem. That sentence right there. I had always handled it. And no one had ever asked if I wanted to. The next morning, I got a message from the bank again this time, clearly forwarded from Charles. They were preparing to initiate foreclosure proceedings. No more extensions. No more grace. And I? I made breakfast and booked a hotel for my retreat. It was a gray Saturday morning when I heard the knock. Not the polite kind, not frantic either, just persistent. A rhythm that said, "We won't leave until you answer." I opened the door slowly. There they were, my father and Lily, standing on the concrete landing outside my apartment, flanked by 2 potted plants and a mat that said, "Do not disturb unless you have tacos." Neither of them smiled. Charles looked older than I remembered. his eyes sunken, shoulders hunched. Lily stood slightly behind him, hair messy, makeup smeared, clutching a thin folder like it was the only thing holding her together. Madeline, he started. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't serious. I didn't move from the doorway, arms crossed, calm. I know it's serious. You're weeks away from losing the house. Lily jumped in. We didn't come to guilt you. Then what did you come for? I asked, voice even. They exchanged a glance. Charles spoke again. We need help navigating the paperwork, the foreclosure process, the taxes. It's all spiraling. You always understood this stuff. Your mother, she never told us how to manage anything. I inhaled slowly. No, she didn't. Because she didn't have to. I was always there. And she knew it. Lily shifted, suddenly defensive. It's not like I asked her to leave everything to me. I didn't know. I didn't even want the house at first. But you signed the papers, didn't you? I cut in. Her face flushed. You didn't hesitate when the lawyer said your name. You didn't stop to ask why mine wasn't there. You just smiled and took the keys. She looked away. I thought maybe it was a way to make me feel worthy. I nodded slowly. And now you know. Inheritance doesn't make you capable. It just makes you accountable. Charles stepped forward, voice cracking. Madeline. We were wrong. About everything. But your mother thought you didn't need anything. She said you were self-made. That Lily needed a net. I was self-made, I said, voice quiet. But that doesn't mean I didn't deserve a place. You don't leave out the person who built the damn bridge just because she knows how to swim. Silence. So, you're really not going to help? Lily asked, her voice trembling. I studied them. Not with cruelty. Not with revenge. Just finality. I'm not refusing because I can't. I'm refusing because if I do help, you'll never learn. You'll survive this and keep expecting me to clean up after the next thing. And the next. Lily's lips quivered. But I'm trying. Then keep trying. Try harder. Learn. Grow. Like I had to. Charles closed his eyes briefly, as if hearing a truth he'd spent years avoiding. But we're family, he whispered. I tilted my head. Family doesn't mean endless access. It means mutual respect. You cashed out all your credit with me a long time ago. I stepped outside, pulling the door gently behind me. This isn't punishment. It's the end of a contract I never signed. Lily looked up at me, tears welling. So that's it? You're just done? I met her eyes for the first time in months. No, I was done the day I saw Mom's handwriting in that will. This is just me refusing to be recast in a role I didn't write. They said nothing. The hallway light flickered overhead. The silence felt like winter. I turned the knob, stepped back inside, and looked over my shoulder one last time. If you really want to grow up, this is your chance. I've stepped off the stage. You can't play the same scene without me. Then I shut the door. And for the first time, I felt it click behind me. Not just the lock, but a life I was no longer responsible for keeping open. 3 days after they stood at my door, a notification popped up on my phone from an old coworker. Jenna. Hey, have you seen Lily's Facebook post? You might want to. I hadn't used Facebook in months, maybe longer, but curiosity got the better of me. I opened the app, logged in, and typed Lily's name. The first post hit like a slow-burning match. It's heartbreaking when the one person who used to be your rock chooses to watch you sink instead. I didn't ask for the responsibility, but I'm doing my best. Some people only support you when they're in control. 57 likes. Dozens of comments full of sympathy. Words like, so sorry, stay strong, family is complicated. I scrolled down and saw another post, this one from my father. We all make mistakes, but when someone turns their back on you during your lowest moment, it's hard not to question if love was ever real. And then, Eleanor would have been devastated to see this distance. I stared at that line for a long time. Eleanor, my mother, the woman who'd written me out of the will with a single sentence, now invoked as a symbol of guilt. They were painting me as the villain, the cold, abandoning daughter. the one who walked away when they needed her most. But they left out the 70, 0. They left out the roof I paid to fix, the bills I covered, the years I spent being the lifeline while no one asked how I was holding up. I didn't post in anger. I didn't name names. I just wrote, "Since stories are being told, here's mine, and it's short. I paid 70,000 over 7 years to keep the house standing. My name was not in the will. The utilities, taxes, and maintenance were handled by me quietly. When I stepped back, it wasn't abandonment. It was the end of exhaustion. Being strong shouldn't mean being erased. This isn't revenge. This is release." I attached a screenshot of one old mortgage payment. No drama, no hashtags, no comments allowed. 10 minutes later, the post had been shared 5 times. Then 10. Then 20. Messages began pouring in, quiet ones. From old neighbors, former classmates, even 2 of Mom's friends from church. "I always wondered why you were never around much anymore. Now I get it. Thank you for saying what so many of us feel. You're not cold, you're clear." The next day, Lily's post disappeared. My father's account went dark. And I didn't feel triumphant. I felt clean. No noise, no confusion, just the truth, finally given room to breathe. And I didn't need to say anything else. In the weeks that followed, everything was quiet. No more calls, no more guilt-laced texts, no more subtle jabs disguised as concern. It wasn't the cold silence of anger. It was the stillness of something finally done. I kept living. Monday mornings were spent in soft light, teaching a beginner photography class at the local community center. I watched teenagers discover how light hits faces, how shadow tells stories. Their curiosity reminded me of everything I had shelved for so long, my own wonder, my own voice. On Saturdays, I took walks with my camera, capturing trees reflected in puddles, a child laughing behind a cracked ice cream cone, a couple arguing quietly, unaware they were part of a frame. I posted them sometimes, no captions, just fragments of truth, caught and framed. I didn't mention my family anymore, not in my posts, not in conversation, not in apology. One afternoon, I received a text from a friend in Boulder. "Alex. Hey, your old house just popped up again on Zillow. Price dropped. 40K. Looks like they still haven't fixed the roof." I clicked the link. The photos told a familiar story. Warped floorboards, peeling paint. A listing that danced around the truth with words like "full of potential" and "great bones." But I didn't feel sad. That house was once my burden, then my battleground, and now? Just a structure, 4 walls, a roof that leaked. It wasn't mine to save anymore. Months passed. Seasons changed. I took a short trip to Oregon and stood on cliffs, where the wind nearly lifted me off my feet. I filled notebooks with sketches and journal entries I didn't feel the need to share with anyone. I even started a small blog not about family, but about rebuilding after roles that drained you dry. Strangers emailed to say thank you. Some called it brave. But I didn't feel brave. I just felt me. One day, while cleaning out a drawer, I found a letter handwritten, unmailed, from my mother. No date, no return address, just my name on the envelope. Inside, "I don't know how to undo what I did. I thought protecting Lily meant leaning on you. But maybe I confused love with dependence. If this ever reaches you, I hope you're living light." I folded the letter slowly. Didn't cry. Didn't smile. Just nodded. And placed it back in the drawer, not as a wound, but as a chapter closed. I don't know what happened to the house. Maybe someone bought it. Maybe it collapsed. I don't ask. What I know is this. I no longer measure my worth in invoices, invisible sacrifices, or how many people need me. I live in a home I chose, with walls I don't have to patch, and light that comes in, not because I fixed something, but because I opened the window. Family is not who inherits your things. It's who honors your presence while you're still here. And if no one else does, then you become that family for yourself. And that's more than enough.